You know that feeling? You send an email to an international colleague thinking it's perfectly clear, but it just falls flat. Or maybe you've been in a meeting where it feels like you're speaking a completely different language, even though you're all using the same words. Well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on the hidden rules of culture and communication so you can connect with anyone, anywhere. So let's just imagine this for a second. You fire off a quick, to-the-point email. You're trying to be efficient, right? Respect their time. But the reply you get back is, well, it's kind of cold and slow. And you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, what on earth did I do wrong? The answer might not be what you think, and it's exactly what we're here to figure out.
And that whole email thing, that's not just a random example. It's happening every single day in our incredibly connected world. Being successful, whether it's in business or just in life, really boils down to how well we can navigate these cultural currents. And the very first step is just understanding them.
Okay, before we can really start to decode all of this, we need to get on the same page. We need to build a solid foundation. So let's start with the big questions. What is culture really? And what do we mean when we talk about diversity? Here's the best way to think about it. Culture is like the social software we're all running. It's the operating system that's humming away in the background, shaping how we see everything, how we talk to people, and what we think is important. And here's the key part. We're not born with it. It's all learned. And, it gets even more layered because none of us belong to just one culture. We're all part of these smaller co-cultures. Maybe you're a gamer or a huge soccer fan or part of a startup community. Each of those groups has its own language, its own inside jokes, its own way of doing things. It's another fascinating layer to who you are. And diversity, wow, it's so much more than just where you're from. It's this incredibly rich tapestry of human experience, right? It's our race, sure, but it's also our economic background, our physical abilities, our gender, our faith, even what generation we belong to. Every single one of these threads weaves together to create our unique point of view. And just look at this. This image is such a powerful reminder that for so many people, faith isn't just a piece of their life. It's the very center of it. It shapes their core values, their family traditions, their whole identity. And if we want to understand people, we have to understand what's important to them. So, with all this complexity, how do we even begin to make sense of it all? How do we go from just knowing differences exist to actually understanding them? Well, we're in luck. There's a fantastic framework, 5 cultural dimensions. Seriously, think of these as your personal decoder ring for global communication. We're about to dive into 5 key ideas that will honestly change the way you see interactions. Now, these aren't meant to put people in boxes. Not at all. They're more like lenses that help us see the why behind what people do. First up, we've got the classic me versus we. In highly individualistic cultures, like in the United States or much of Western Europe, the main focus is on you, your personal goals, your success. But in many collectivistic cultures, common in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the group is everything. Your duty is to your family, your community, your team. Okay, remember that confusing email from the beginning? This is it. This is the explanation. It was a classic low-context message hitting a high-context inbox. In low-context cultures, we value directness. Just say what you mean. But in high-context cultures, you have to read between the lines. Being too direct can actually be seen as aggressive or rude, because maintaining group harmony is the most important thing. Next, let's talk about power. In a low-power distance culture, you might feel totally fine questioning your boss in a meeting. It's seen as collaborative. But try that in a high-power distance culture, and it could be taken as a huge sign of disrespect. Knowing this one thing can save you a lot of trouble in an international workplace. Now, for this next one, the names can be a bit tricky, so let's be super clear. This has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. It's about what a culture values as a whole. So, masculine cultures tend to really prize ambition, competition, and getting ahead. Feminine cultures, on the other hand, tend to value things like quality of life, cooperation, and taking care of one another. So, how do you feel about surprises? Or when plans suddenly change? Your answer might have a lot to do with your culture. Cultures that are high in uncertainty avoidance, like clear rules, structure, and predictability. They want to know what's happening. But uncertainty-accepting cultures, they're much more comfortable with the unknown, with ambiguity. They're happy to just go with the flow. Okay, so we've got our toolkit. We have these 5 incredible lenses to help us understand why people act the way they do. But knowing is only half the battle, right? Now it's time to talk about what we do with this knowledge.
This is where we move from awareness to action. The best communicators are like cultural chameleons. They adapt. They learn the local customs, whether it's how to properly exchange a business card or how much small talk is expected before getting down to business. They pay attention to things like personal space, how formal you should be, and even how people think about time. These might seem like small things, but trust me, they make a huge difference. All right, let's bring it all home with a simple, actionable game plan. We're going to talk about 4 skills you can start working on today that will make you a much more competent, confident, and successful communicator in our global world. So here it is. It all begins with awareness, everything we've been talking about. Then you have to actively try to see things from other people's perspectives. That leads to the really hard part, fighting our own biases. And finally, you have to be flexible to adapt your own style to fit the situation you're in. This right here, this is the #1 trap we all fall into: cultural centrism. It's that quiet little voice in the back of your head that whispers, well, my way of doing things is the normal way, the right way. Just learning to recognize that voice and then question it is maybe the most powerful thing you can do. And a very close cousin of that is this idea of projected cognitive similarity. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. It's the mistake of assuming everyone's brain is running the exact same social software as yours. But we're not. And acting like we are is just asking for a communication breakdown. And finally, we have to fight against this: the outgroup homogeneity effect. This is our brain's lazy shortcut that leads directly to stereotypes. It's the tendency to think, oh, those people are all the same. But the reality is, every single culture is packed with incredible diversity. To ignore that is to miss out on what makes us all so interesting. At the end of the day, it really comes down to this mindset. Don't look at cultural differences as problems or obstacles to overcome. See them as what they are: amazing opportunities. Opportunities to learn something new, to grow as a person, and to become a more empathetic and effective human being. So I want to leave you with a challenge, a question for you to think about. Based on what we've covered, what is just one cultural assumption that you hold, maybe one you didn't even know you had, that you can consciously question this week? The whole journey starts with that one simple, curious question. What's yours going to be?